Jennifer Vatsa of Belladonna's Botanicals, and this is the first video I've been in the series that I announced for Accessibility Magic, or pardon, making magic accessible if you have neurodivergence mental health and physical disabilities or chronic pain. And one of the most common things I get, and one of the most common things I've had to deal with, is making meditation accessible for those things. And I get this question a lot from people who are like, I'm ADHD, and how the hell do I meditate? I'm like, hi, also ADHD as F, and this is what I've come to learn over the years, and I hope these tips help you. And also, this applies to anyone with chronic pain or mobility issues as well. So the first I want to talk about is getting prepared to do meditation. So what do I mean by that? I'm sorry. I know I've gone to a lot of meditation classes and yoga meditation, and you see a lot of videos, and sit in a chair upright with your feet on the floor, or sit in lotus pose and whatnot. I'm like, I can't, because all I will be focused on is how much pain I am in and how uncomfortable I am in. There's no fucking way I'm going to be able to meditate that way. So that said, find what works for you and for your body. I have issues with my hips, so sitting on a hard floor is not an option. I would probably not be able to get up afterwards, or I would get up and fall over. So what works for me the best is laying down. And that can involve, I own more pillows than a fucking pillow store. I probably have about, if I had to guess, I'm gonna say 8 pillows on my couch, like this, varying sizes. So if I'm meditating on my couch or in bed, usually what I do is I get comfortable first. And I am very much like a dog or cat that has to really kind of work their way into getting comfortable. And that's fine. I might be on my side sometimes. I might be on my stomach. I don't tend to lay flat on my back that often, but a lot of times I'll put a pillow between my knees, just because I have the low back and hip issues. And I have a little easier time breathing if I'm at a slight elevation. Like laying flat, just for me, I feel like it really restricts my breathing, and which may be because I have a deviated septum and sleep apnea. So I prefer to be elevated slightly. But finding out what works for you, how do you feel the most comfortable in order to sit down and meditate. And this could be listening to a guided meditation. It could be having binaural beats on in the background, whatever you decide that works for you in that sense. Because we're all different. Excuse me. Being ADHD, I can't just close my eyes and be like, "Ooh, I'm meditating now," and whatnot. So the first thing I do, once I get myself comfortable, or the second thing I do rather, is because of the ADHD, is I give my brain what I call time for the squirrels to just run amok. So I just let my brain kind of, have its like little, okay, don't forget to do this, and you got that, and then, just going through a million different things and all of that. Just kind of, that starts the process of clearing. You can't, when you have ADHD or any kind of similar issues, there's a transition. I can't just go from here to here without a process. So I give myself a time to just let my brain drain itself out. So just go wee, run in circles. And that could take any length of time. It could take a couple minutes. I could be laying there for 20 minutes just trying to get my brain to get through that process. But that's what works for me. And as a side note, sometimes I use that to take a thinking nap, because if there's too many distractions, like the TV's on, the computer's on, this is on, I'm doing this and that, I just need to like think about something, I'll take a thinking nap. I don't really fall asleep, but I just kind of go dormant. I power down mode, and that way my brain can kind of start to clear some of that junk out. Even if I'm not necessarily meditating, it's a process. So once you get through, getting comfortable and cozy, picking out your music, or if you want to do it I live in the city, so having it in the quiet doesn't really work for me. I need the background noise. And also, I have possibly permanent tinnitus from being on Lexapro for 10 years. I'm that person who gets the 0.1% of the population reported this weird ass side effect. It's always me. Even though I haven't been on it for 2.5 years, I still, if it's too quiet, it's really noticeable for me. So I prefer to have music on or guided meditation. YouTube has probably millions of really great videos for that. So finding what works for you. You might like binaural beats. You might like ASMR. You might like guided meditations. You might like just ambient music. Or if you are doing something of the more spiritual realm, you might like mantras or chants or the demonic ends. Well, they have ends for other things too, but anything of that ilk you might find really beneficial. So now you're kind of in the process. I find it helps me to have an eye mask on, because having that pressure on my eyes um relaxes me, but it might not for you. I also have sensory processing issues, so sometimes I'll be like, there's just too much stuff on my face. That's more if I'm wearing my CPAP machine, because then there's just too much stuff on my face. So it's just slowly descending into that state. So if I was going to like start meditating, once I spiral through those squirrels, it starts getting quieter and quieter. And, as I'm listening to the music, you're either going to come to a place where you're going to feel a sense of stillness. Like there's times when I'm like, I can achieve that sort of, what I forget the what they call the term for it, like no mind, where you're just like in a state of your being but not thinking. It's quiet. But you might want to meditate on a particular topic, or might want to use it to communicate with spirit guides or ancestors or any of the gods, goddesses, demons, angels, and spirits that you work with. That's how a lot of times I do it. Because for having the ADHD unquiet mind is that it gives you a time, especially when you're channeling, that it's a little easier to access some of that information and those communications. It's sometimes easier for it to get through. The other thing, I am a Reiki master, so also sometimes I'll do like some self Reiki when I'm doing that. And I'll do my little sort of what I learned from my teacher and stuff, kind of the sort of setting the intention for the Reiki, and working with the different Reiki symbols, and do that as well. And that is perfectly fine. It's mixing and matching to get to the point where you find what works for you. Don't feel like because I read it in a book or saw a video, it has to be done this way. I have to be sitting upright in a chair with my feet on the floor. If that works for you, great. If not, find what does. What my goal is to get everyone into a place where they're comfortable and they feel confident in their skills and their abilities. And a lot of that just comes from practice and patience. If you can only meditate for 2 or 3 minutes, that is fine. That's where I started out. I could only meditate. I could only sometimes I fail. Sometimes I'm just like, I lay down, I have the squirrels won't stop running, and I'm laying there an hour later, and I'm like, all right, well, I'm just gonna come back to it later. It's okay. It happens to us all. And part of making these practices accessible is not everyone gives the assurances, and that it's okay to develop a practice that's for yourself, that is custom tailored to your body and your needs. And there are people who'll be like, oh, well, you have to do it this way, or it was written in the book this way, or don't get married to that. Don't feel that because I can't do it the way this person does it, I'm failing. Because you're not. They're failing because they're not making their practices accessible to everyone. And if you're meditating and suddenly one of those squirrels runs by, just let it run by. It may take you out of focus for a minute, but just come back to that focal point. And that's why I like having an intention or something when I do meditation, because it gives me a focal point. And even if that focal point is just quieting the mind, it's something I can kind of come back to when the squirrels start running around like crazy. So I hope this helps. I am definitely I have a list of suggestions that some people made for topics they'd like to see covered. And those will be coming up soon. And I am really excited to be bringing you the series. And someday, if I can get my shit together, because let me tell you, wrangling me is not the easiest thing in the world, and I am me. So I would love someday to take all of this and distill it into writing a book about accessibility for magic practitioners. And there's things that I would need to collaborate with people on. I don't know how I would necessarily convey writing or doing a ritual to someone who is has auditory or visual impairments. We have different ways that we have to do stuff. So I may at times bring in guests to talk about things. So, and always, if you have more suggestions, please leave them in the comments below, and I will definitely look into them further. And I will continue to talk about my practices and making magic accessible for everyone. Much love, and hail yourself.